...2021 has been an absolutely epic year for video games, and I've done my best to try and keep up. I've actually completed a lot of different games that are open world, big indie games, cult classics, all sorts of stuff that was just incredibly fun to beat. And so today, I'm going to do my best to try and rank them, to talk about the truly must-play experiences from the last 12 months. Are you ready? Let's do this. What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and these are my picks of the top 10 must-play games from 2021. Number 10. Kena Bridge of Spirits. I really admire games that have multiple different amazing aspects to them simultaneously, and Kena definitely has that. This is a very charming mix of incredible art and a wonderful story about a girl trying to do her job of easing the lost souls in the world of spirits. It's a game that manages to have cool combat and nice exploration, but at times I feel like the aspect of it that I appreciated the most was just the fact that it felt almost like an interactive movie. It's crazy to see this level of graphics can actually exist now in such a fluid, beautiful way, and honestly, it makes it such a fun experience to sort of behold. Number 9. Guardians of the Galaxy. This project has got to be the biggest surprise of the entire year, because while some of us may have expected some sort of cool thing to come out of the Marvel Universe this year, I don't think anybody could have predicted that it'd be something that's so wholesome and heartbreaking. The Guardians game is, on the surface, just a third-person shooter with some very bright and flashy battles, but the deeper you go into it, the more you kind of see what they've managed to craft inside this universe. They managed to make something that has an incredibly good soundtrack, and some really just deep and really well-written cutscenes. It's so nice. It makes me really care more about this game specifically. I wish that we'd see a sequel to the Guardians game, just to have another chance to ride along with this crazy freaking chaotic crew of chaos. Number 8. Guilty Gear Strive. I've always believed that the biggest barrier to entry and sort of the thing that's holding back some fighting games is that they can be difficult to learn. Like, actually mastering a fighting game sometimes takes hundreds, if not thousands of hours of trying to time every single punch and every single frame. It can become almost a frustrating art form all unto itself. Well, Guilty Gear really strives to be different by sort of removing these barriers and actually educating you by playing it. It does all sorts of training lessons that sort of make it so you understand the perfect balance they've crafted into this game itself. It makes it where every time you figure out a new combo or beat a new boss, you have so much fun doing it. This makes it so even if you are just new to fighting games, you can very easily slip into this and figure out how the entire genre functions and why it is so addictive. Number 7. Halo Infinite. This is honestly one of my most played games of the entire year, and part of that is because it almost feels like two separate titles just packaged together. The campaign in Infinite is a big open world with loads of side quests, optional targets, and a lot of just things you can do to explore this very gorgeous environment. But separately, there is this multiplayer that has a deep, rich online that's an arena-style brawler. It has piles of guns, lots of times to play capture the flag and help your friends and try and save that next crazy headshot. I appreciate the fact that Halo Infinite, it does feel like two separate games just glued together, but that difference in tastes makes it feel like a more complete meal in my opinion. The more time I put into Halo Infinite, the more I really kind of see that this is a game that could probably go the distance and be really, really great even into 2022. Number 6. Metroid Dread. It seems like Nintendo is super good about dropping at least one incredibly amazing game each year that stirs up a heated conversation. It has all sorts of debates surrounding it, talks about value and price and playtime, but I don't think that anybody was ready specifically for the quality of Metroid Dread. This is a 2D game that has you going through this really mysterious planet, unlocking new powers, going into new depths, and sometimes fighting some bosses that are going to kill you a lot. But during the the course of Metroid Dread, I really liked the fact that this feels almost like a retro game, and I do mean that in the best way possible. There's so many moments in this game that really exemplify the greatness of those early games from the late 90s and early 2000s, when game developers were sort of figuring out the perfect pace to that next big scare or that crazy encounter. Like, Metroid Dread is a game that feels like both a new sequel, but also a culmination of all of Nintendo's history. This is the greatness that is what Metroid is supposed to be. And with that positive moment, let's take a second to thank our sponsor. I've been trying to be healthier this year by eating better, running around, and making sure I'm dropping those pounds. And part of that comes down to actually starting your day off right, which is why I've decided to partner with Magic Spoon. This is health cereal that tastes fantastic. Straight up, it's got 0 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 13 grams of protein, and only 140 calories per serving. The stuff is delicious. That is the most important part. You're not going to eat something that's healthy if it tastes bad, but this stuff thankfully is great, with flavors that are fruity, chocolatey, or peanut butter. Like, all of them are great. My personal favorite is these ones that are called fruity. They're freaking delicious. And now you can try it for yourself. They have a special thing where they call it the happiness guarantee. If you don't love it, they'll give you 100% of your money back. But try it today using my coupon code, which is DCG21. There's a link for it down below in the description box. Click that link. It goes straight to it. It's magicspoon.com/DCG21 for $5 off your order. You won't regret it. It is straight up good. Number 5. It Takes Two. Have you ever played a game that purposely made you reflect on yourself, where during the course of trying to beat it, you think about where you currently stand with your friends, with your lovers, with your entire existence? Well, It Takes Two seriously manages to do that. This game is, on the surface, just a co-op game. It has you and your friend going on a magical adventure as this couple that's been randomly turned into dolls. Now, during the course of this game, each chapter of it is a story that's radically different. It changes the tone, but also the gameplay. You go from a top-down RPG to a platformer, or even a pirate mission. And with each of these new environments that you visit, you also get some very interesting reveals about these characters themselves, about what led them to this place. It Takes Two is seriously one of those games that makes me think about my life and the journey I've been on thus far. It's just so fun, which is important, but it also feels like a game that you can play with somebody and grow closer because of it. Number 4. Psychonauts 2. This is a game that I seriously regret taking so long to beat. I left this in my backlog for such a huge chunk of this year, and now just a couple weeks ago, I finally finished it, and it just completely blew me away. After all, this game pretty much shouldn't exist. Originally, it had to be crowdfunded, the game itself was delayed, it was remixed and rebooted internally, and now that I've finished it, I can see that it was definitely worth the wait and all the trouble it's gone through. This is a puzzle platformer, but with such a heavy dose of humor. The jokes are great, it's got so much charm to it, the art style is incredibly unique. Like, Psychonauts 2 is one of those games that I feel like nobody else in the world could have made but these specific developers. I loved it. Every single puzzle I screwed up, every single time I fell off a ramp, every single time I tried my best to go to that next big gap. I love what Psychonauts 2 is attempting to do. Number 3. Monster Hunter Rise. This series itself, Monster Hunter, has always been based on a very simple concept. The idea that grinding is the ultimate talent. The ability to go and fight a boss again and again, smashing yourself against it, breaking it down, and then using the parts from that monster to make bigger weapons and fight the next monster. It's something that becomes this very, very delicate loop. But no place do I think it's more refined than in Monster Hunter Rise. This game is so brilliantly paced. I mean, straight up, every part of this is so freaking fun. Every time I found a new environment, a new biome, a new chance to run through the snow or just grapple hook through the swamp, it gives you an incredible amount of freedom in it, but then it also just takes a chance to smack the heck out of you and remind you that you need to level up even more. Rise essentially is a series of mega fights. It's a chance to go against people that are purposely too strong, the way you can try and figure out their weakness, their talents, and then take them down. This game makes makes me think about the careful choices between those fights, though. Like when I'm going to town and I'm having to craft that next suit of armor, that next big weapon, the times where I have to very, very carefully pick where I'm going to spend my assets and become an even better hunter. I like the fact that during the course of this, you really are going to feel strong in the best way possible, and especially with that co-op, teaming up with other hunters from around the world to try and drop some beasties that want to eat you for dinner. It is exceedingly exciting from every single second of this. Until you roll the credits, it is a game that's going to make you want to rise and grind. Number 2. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game was so incredibly hyped up by Sony before it actually came out. There were so many talks about it utilizing the power of the PlayStation 5 and the solid-state drive, so we could just use basically light switches to flick between different dimensions. Like, every part of this game was so talked about that when I finally sat down with the controller in my hand, I wasn't sure what to really expect, because sometimes trailers can be a bit misleading, but I'm really happy to say every part of this is exactly what we were promised. I do want to say that I sort of appreciate this game for a strange reason. And part of it is the fact that A Rift Apart is very short and sweet. It's a game that you can finish in a single day, but during the course of trying to get the collectibles and finding the hidden achievements and stuff, it's a game that's still incredibly fun, even if you do choose to just blow through it. I really liked this game the most when it came to those times where it felt almost like a roller coaster, where you're going in and fighting different baddies with your upgraded guns, and you're shooting people with stuff that can be scatter shots or things that make people dance against their will, going against aliens that are just so confusing and goofy looking. I like this game because every part of it feels so delicately constructed. Every level, every platform, every grapple hook swing is something that feels like it is designed to make you smile, and it is incredibly effective at it. Honorable mention, Returnal. Okay, so I'll fully admit that I'm just putting this in here to sort of try and cheat. I want to put 11 games into a top 10 video, but Returnal is a game that needs to be talked about. I thought that this game was so imaginative and unique. It's a game that's based on a time loop, but it almost feels more like a roguelike. Every time you play this game, you get randomized abilities that can give you extra shield, extra weapons, faster reload, or sometimes just the ability to dash one extra time when these monsters are trying to hunt you down. But what's cool about it is that there's such a fun storyline reason for it. This planet is evolving with you. Every time time resets, every time you crash back onto this cursed place, it reforms itself to become your ultimate enemy. Returnal is a game that made me sort of appreciate every other game this year. It was the spice to my taco. It was the thing that makes everything more fun. So even though I can't quite put it on an official spot in this top 10, it's a game I still hope you'll play whenever you find a PlayStation 5. Number 1. Resident Evil 8 Village. I talked at the very beginning of this video about how I enjoy beating games of different varieties, different genres, different tastes, but what I don't talk about as often is the fact that a lot of times, if I truly appreciate a game, I'll play it again and again and again. I have now finished Resident Evil Village over 15 times. I've done speedruns, I beat it on the hardest difficulty, I've done a bunch of the Mercenaries mode. This is truly a game where every single part of it is incredibly polished. I appreciate the scares, the horror. I appreciate the times where your guns are taken away and you have to try and survive this freaking haunted house of horrors. Every part of this game is just exactly what it needs to be. Resident Evil 7 was a huge cult classic. Everybody loved Resident Evil 7 for sort of restarting the timeline of Resident Evil in a proper fashion. But Village, it takes those concepts and makes them even more perfect, making this series a first-person shooter, and then trapping us in this village of terrors that's got werewolves and vampires and just some really haunting visuals. It is a game that stuck with me more than anything else. Resident Evil 8 is a game that's built for the fans, but more than that, it transcends its genre. This is something I feel like cannot be talked about enough because it has so many freaking great moments to it. It's got jump scares, it's got really high quality freaking gun customization, it's got a subtle but incredibly effective soundtrack, it's got some some very famous villains that have some big old booba. Like, I really think this game sets out to be the best it can be, and in that way, it sort of transforms the entire horror genre. This is the future of Resident Evil, and as a mega fan of RE, the future is looking incredibly bright. I have to give this my award as the most playable, the most addictive, the most perfect game of the entire 2021, and I really, really hope you play it, even if you're not typically into the spooky genre. Did your favorite game not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below, and also, if you would, please give this video a giant like, it does help things out, and also subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Oh my gosh, it's been such a fun year. Thank you all for the crazy amounts of love and support. I gotta go beat some new video games. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.